Weaving friendship, trading squabbles for humor. Fern, Jason, and Micah went to nature class every week. They loved it. They loved the long walk through the woods to camp. They loved the campfire. They loved the activities and the singing. They loved the kind adults who helped them find tracks and tap maple trees and dig up clay. And they loved the long wanders when they would explore the woods and the fields, looking for birds and animals. But they did not particularly love one another. The children had been coming to nature class for years. When they were 3, they barely noticed each other. When they were 4, they noticed other children a little more and had started to bug each other. Now they were 5. They were the big kids in class. Each one of them had lots of energy. Each one knew exactly what he or she liked, and each one liked very much to win. Fern, Jason, and Micah fought every day. At the hammock, they were supposed to take turns, but sometimes Fern would swing in the hammock so long that Jason and Micah would complain loudly. Then a grown-up would come and set a timer and finally persuade Fern to let someone else have a chance. When the group would go on a wander, they'd set off down a narrow trail, walking single file. Jason especially loved to be first in line. But when Fern and Micah saw him there, they'd try to push in front of him until grown-ups came and walked between them. Here, too, the children were asked to take turns being first, but they didn't really like to. At snack time, grown-ups would carry around plates of delicious foods cooked on the campfire. Sometimes there were pieces of fruit the children themselves had sliced for the group. Micah was especially fond of grabbing the largest piece. Then she'd make sure that Jason and Fern saw what she had. They'd be so annoyed that they would grab extra pieces of fruit, even though they didn't really want them. Although these 3 children didn't agree on much, they did all have the very same favorite activity: weaving. They loved to make yarn and string go over and under and over each other. Fern, Jason, and Micah could get completely lost in the pattern of it and forget to argue with anyone, as long as there were enough materials for everyone to work with at the same time. The grown-ups understood this and always took care to provide plenty of whatever was needed. But one day there was a new activity in camp. Straight, sturdy sticks had been tied to 2 thin trees to make a large rectangular frame. Strings had been strung from the top of the frame to the bottom in closely spaced rows, and as Fern, Jason, and Micah arrived, they could see that it was a weaving activity. Cattail leaves, strips of fabric, and tall plumes of goldenrod had all been woven across the strings, forming a beautiful, colorful pattern. More materials lay on the ground beside the loom. They were so excited. They could see right away exactly how it was supposed to work, and they all wanted to try it. They dropped their backpacks on the ground and ran. Fern got there first and was just poking a cattail leaf into the loom when Jason grabbed up a strip of fabric and started sliding it behind a string on the other side. Micah was right behind them. There was no open side, and she was so eager to get started that she began pushing the other 2 out of the way so she could reach the pile of weavers. Suddenly, there was a grown-up there, calling their names, gently fitting her arm between them, asking them to separate. It took them a minute to come to their senses, but they knew they weren't supposed to push or grab, and finally they stopped. "Come with me," said their teacher. Uh-oh, thought Fern, Jason, and Micah. They figured they were probably in trouble now. They followed her through camp to an open area where backpacks were stored. The teacher pointed to a spot on the ground. "Please sit there," she said. Fern, Jason, and Micah felt like arguing, but they really liked their teacher, and they were a little curious to find out what was going to happen. So they sat. The teacher fished around inside her big backpack and pulled out a bag. Inside it were long, thin strips of fabric. The children recognized them. They'd helped tear those strips out of an old ripped sheet to make boundary lines for group games. "Are we going to play a game?" asked Fern. "Sort of," said their teacher. "Scoot a little closer to each other." Fern, Jason, and Micah looked at each other. They were still quite grumpy. They didn't want to be close to each other at all, but curiosity won, and they did it. "Now," said the teacher, "we're going to weave the three of you together." What on earth was going on? The children were a little confused, a lot curious, and they were beginning to feel giggly. The teacher tapped Jason's knee. "Will you lift your leg so I can weave under it?" All of a sudden, all three of them got it. They saw how it would work. They wiggled closer to each other and poked their legs out in front of them, all lined up in a row like the strings on the loom. The teacher fed a long ribbon of fabric over one leg and under the next, over another leg and under the next, over the last child's leg and under the next. Then she started over with a new streamer, gently, loosely weaving their legs together. The children were howling with laughter. "To our arms!" they cried, holding them out. So the teacher wove a few more strands over their arms. When she was done, the children were so happy and excited it was impossible to keep from wiggling. They looked at each other with sparkling eyes and fell over, rolling and shaking off the streamers. Then they wanted to do it again. They kept it up until snack time, and when they heard the drum calling them to circle, they ran to the stumps and chose spots together. When snack was passed around, they politely chose what they wanted, and when Jason's celery fell on the ground, Micah picked it up, brushed it off, and gave it back to him. After that day, the three children became friends. Most of the time they looked out for one another and found ways to enjoy playing together, and on the rare occasions when they squabbled, the teacher would only have to ask them, "Do I have to weave you together again?" And the three would be giggling and running for the game boundary bag.